All right, well, g'day there. Richard Musgrave-Evans here again, and welcome back. Now today, time for a still life. You can see I've got it all set up in the other room there, a nice spotlight, working from life. I've just done a quick grey lead sketch, so now when I start colouring in, basically, everything will be pretty much in the right spot. Okay, now what I want to do is capture that feeling of the rustic subjects, obviously, but at the same time I want to capture the quality of the item itself that I'm painting. So I want to get the rustic leather here, the old depression furniture, which is a beautiful piece, made out of bits of timber here and metal there. I want to capture the quality of those pieces, the fur felt hat and everything else. So basically, it's a feeling of realism in a rustic setting and picking up the quality of those items. All right, so let's go. Now we'll get the biggest difference. We'll block it all in, get rid of all the white, suggest everything, and once we get an idea of what we want, we'll start reeling it in. Okay, let's get into it. All right, now as you saw, I've got a very simple colour palette. It's just the ultramarine, the burnt sienna, the alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, titanium white, and I'll use a little bit of cad orange just as a highlight as well to really pump it up with lights hitting around the top of the bench. Anyway, for now, we'll put a few darks in. So we'll use alizarin crimson, burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. That'll make a beautiful dark. I haven't got any magenta or green here. I don't really need it for this painting. I reckon I'll get away with just using the ultramarines and whatever and the alizarin crimson. That'll make nice, strong enough chromatic mauves anyway for what I need for this particular painting. Okay, let's get into a few of the darks. Just going to feel my way in here. Pull that down there. It's nice. Now you can go over these darks. You don't have to be 100% completely in the right spot. We'll just go burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue. A bit more burnt sienna. When I'm putting these darks in, if I go a little bit too much where I didn't want it, that's fine. I can just easily go light over dark. Wet on wet. Shadow there. That'll hook around there. I'm just trying to establish the feeling of the boots right from the word go. Just a basic shape of them. Something along those lines. That'll cut there. This dark. Actually putting in a negative space behind the boot there. Go for a bit more burnt sienna and yellow ochre for that, just lighten the value ever so slightly. Okay, start putting some of those darks in now. We've got plenty to do when it comes to that. Nice dark background. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre, a bit of alizarin crimson. What am I saying? That's a bit of ultramarine blue to knock the chromatic saturation out of the yellow ochre and burnt sienna. If you find it goes a little bit too green, you can throw a bit more red in. Red opposite on the colour wheel will knock the green out of the colour. What I am going to do right now, I've just remembered, I just want to tape the edges because I'm going to paint right to the very edge. I want it to have a very clean, neat edge, so then I'll peel the tape off when it's finished and get a lovely clean edge. Just do that now. Alright, just throw this tape on the sides. Get it all lovely and neat, and then we'll peel it off later on. Alright, that's good, that's all taped off. Now let's get back into it. I'm going to paint this whole thing with palette knife, as you know, but what I'll do is, just down to the edge there, just get the brush to put it right up to the edge of the tape. That way it'll be lovely and neat and be all good. What am I going to do here today down there? Pull that one in. That'll be the edge of that. Just getting a rough idea. More yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Ultramarine blue, a little bit of red to stop it going too green in colour. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre. It's a lovely brew, so it's slightly more yellow ochre there. A little bit more red in that than yellow ochre. reflected light value in this part of the old depression furniture. I'll come down to there. That'll be there. Pull that down. It's all going on nicely. What am I going to do down there today? I'll have that keyed down. I'll just leave it like that for now. A bit more of the yellow ochre. The top of the furniture just here. That's alright. Put that in there. Bit of that there. Still going on quite thick, all in one go. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Very simple use of all the colours though. Feel like she's wobbling around. I'll have to tighten the bottom up. Alright, I just tightened up the back with some of the screws were a little bit wobbly and thought I'd give them a bit of a tighten. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson. Just tighten them a little so it's not so rickety so I can push on a little bit more without sending it back. As I push on it, that feels better. Okay, I'll get that in. Nice stuff, beautiful colouring going on there. I've got a medium weave, I've got a white prime Belgian linen today. It's Belgian linen again, but we've got the white primer on it. There's no reason, I'm just making up each time as I go, just changing it up a bit, doesn't really matter. This medium weave is quite good though, you don't have to use buckets of paint to get a coverage. When you're using the really coarse linen, just come right up to the edges here. When you're using the really coarse linen, because it's almost like plastering a wall, it fills up all the gaps in the linen and uses heaps of paint. But when you've got a finer weave, burnt sienna, yellow ochre and burnt sienna, it doesn't use so much paint. Now when I'm near the tape, I pull down away from the tape like so, which means I won't shove it under. If I go this way, I'm able to push the paint under the tape and then you end up with not neat edges. So that's, I shouldn't even have to run a brush across that, that should be right now. Yellow ochre and burnt sienna. A little bit of blue to darken that off. A little bit of ultramarine blue, a bit of red to stop it being so green in colour. Send it a little darker here. I'll just go a little bit lighter than that. Let's put that up there. It's gone a little bit darker. I just want to draw your eye away. Your eye in these chiaroscuro paintings will tend to move towards the light. So, when you make it darker, forces your eye away from that area. That's nice. Good stuff. Just breaking up the little marks. Give the illusion of atmosphere going on. Broken bits here and there. Little marks with the big knife. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Which part am I up to here? Yep, yellow ochre, burnt sienna. A little bit of the ultramarine blue. Put that in. Run that down around here. And get some more yellow ochre and burnt sienna and alizarin to warm it all up a little. Yellow ochre. A bit more light in the centre there. Centre eyes. This will be the main subject, and then we'll go to the secondary subject just out here, so we'll make it a little bit lighter and richer. A bit more yellow ochre in that mix. Lovely stuff for that. Break it up in there. Nice. It's going on well. Pull it in like so. Just keep putting the paint on as we go. Just going up to the edges, like I was saying, make it nice and neat. Go around the edge a bit, go over the tape. Pull the tape off later on. It's lovely and neat. You got there's the hat. The shadow of the hat. A little bit darker for the shadow of the hat, maybe in there. That's the edge of the hat. A bit more of the alizarin burnt sienna. Yellow ochre. Edge of the hat, edge of the hat. It's kind of fun seeing how much you can do with just the one knife. I really enjoy doing that. See how much work can be done with just one instrument. That goes in there. Nice. More yellow ochre and burnt sienna with that. Where are we up to here? That's there. Alright, just working out what I'll do with these areas down here. I might just darken them off a little, just cover them up. Off to the edge nice and neat. I'll take it down there. A bit more of the blue and the burnt sienna. That'll be the edge. Working out where the edge of that'll be. The edge of the furniture, the depression furniture, that goes there. Colour her in. Like I was saying, we'll go upwards so I don't force the paint under the tape. Like so. That's actually working out all right. All right, now I've still got a big chunk of white here. Hang on. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre. Yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Clean her up, yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Just want to. That's too dark for what I want, but that'll do for now. That'll go there. What I want to do is knock up all this stuff now. We'll go for some darks. Ultramarine blue, alizarin, burnt sienna. This dark in here. It's quite dark there, but it's a little bit more of a brown dominant than just blue, so we use a bit more of the burnt sienna. Yeah, there's a warmer value than. There we go, stick that burnt sienna in. So I've got one of these drawers just to add interest. One of these old sliding drawers is open. To add a bit of interest. Burnt sienna, warm that up a bit in there. Knife on edge. Knife on edge. Here we go. Let's put that on edge there. A little bit going through this way. Maybe a little twang of it here. There we go. Alright, now what I'll do is, obviously, we'll start getting the tonal values of that, and that's a much warmer or cooler colour, sorry, that'll be the ultramarine blues. So we've got the lovely warm colours here, and you get the warm and cool contrast with the lovely blue in here, so that should be good. I will do that, but what I might do is just get the hat blocked in as well. Use some yellow edges and all these lovely values that I've put here. Stick the shadow of the hat just there. Oops. Come down around under here. Okay, so that'll go down that way. Come around like so. That'll be there. A few darker darks. A bit of a shadow of the hat in here. And a bit of a shadow there. dark there. Like so. There we go. Nice. There's the hat starting to form already. Alright. A bit more of the yellow ochre thrown in here, middle tone. Spin it around. Alright, you can see the hat's starting to take shape. Let's get into the blues in a minute. I'll just stand back and have a quick look. Alright, let's work out these colours. Go for ultramarine blue, maybe a bit of the alizarin crimson, a little bit of white. Keyed down version, throwing all those different browns and whatever in. We want it to be in shadow and keyed down. A little bit more of the blue though. A bit more of the yellow ochre dominant to make it slightly greener. That's more of a red version, that's what I wanted. I'll go down there. Like so. Colour that in. Nice. Bit of that gear down here. What are we going to have here? Where's that here? Right, okay. There's the bottom on there. The bottom drawer. Getting up to the edge is pretty nice. A bit of a lighter valley there. But while I'm here, I'll just fill this one in. Down here. Make it quite keyed down and uninteresting because you don't want your eye to get too drawn to that one. It's not the main subject. So far we're getting away with just using the one trowel palette knife here, which is good fun. That one's just a little bit lighter. We'll go for some more ultramarine blue, a little bit more white, more ultramarine blue. It's a bit rickety. It's got a bit of a bend in it at the top here. A bit more white there, a bit more blue. It's got a bit of lightness on the edge here, which sets it apart. I'm going to need some more white, ultramarine blue. That's it. Good. Going on. Chunk her up. Don't get too hung up about the edges at the moment. Make the edges hard and soft, lost and found. Let go of the edges. Tight. Too many tight edges makes a tight painting. Go for a bit more burnt sienna and warm them up now for the side of the tray here. You want hard and soft edges to make it interesting. A bit more white. White with the yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre. That goes there. Right, now a little bit of rust colours, burnt sienna and white. A little bit of rust colours thrown in, intermixed. More of the burnt sienna, slightly darker version of it. Burnt sienna's going for the darker, rusty version. Yeah. There we go. A bit more rust there, a bit darker. So burnt siennas and blues darken it off. Darker rust in here. Right, let me just have a look, eh? Now that's working out. Let's just get some, where are we? White, yellow ochre with the blues. Just the front edge of the depression furniture here. Paint the edge, knife on edge. White, yellow ochre. burnt sienna. It's got a bit of blue paint and it's also got bits of timber colour there, so I'm breaking it up and making it both. Same goes for over here. That'll go there. Nice. Okay. A little bit of light catching here and there. The top edge of the bench here. Top edge of the bench runs through here. Knife on edge at work. Doesn't need to be perfect yet, we're just feeling our way around. Okay, we're getting there with that. Just a little bit of extra work here with a bit more timber there. A few lighter tones in the blue here. White, blue. Just lightening up a little bit here. Break it up, bit of variety. There you go, that's looking good. Okay. All right, things are starting to get there with that. Now we have to go for the biggest differences again, which will more be the top of the bench and the booth. We just work our way around and slowly reel in all over the place. Okay. All right, that's sort of coming along how we want it. Why don't we now just put that bench in? All right, so we'll go for some whites, high key colours. Yellow ochre, we'll get some cat orange with that, really key it up. Yellow ochre, white, cat orange. Maybe a bit more of the cad. Sting it up. It's all very well and good. It's way more fun with the big knife though, isn't it? So let's get the big knife out. Big areas here to be blocked in with the big knife. White, yellow ochre. 20 of burnt sienna in that too to key it off. Keying the bench off and greying the value a little through here, so it's not so full on. That goes on there. Okay, just basically feeling our way. Let go of that edge a bit. Burnt sienna. Establishing the edge there of that piece of furniture. Where's that coming to about there? Right. Pull that through there. Okay, some more high key colours. Where are we? A bit more cads. Go for cad yellow, white. Make a pretty high key in this area here. It's good. While we're at it, I might just get the edge of the hat too. Slightly keyed down version. At least some of those blues. Still a light tonal value though. It's here. And it's here. Just want to get rid of that white. It's up there. And it runs through there like so. A bit more of those blues with the oranges and whatever else. Dusty old hat with heaps of rustic quality about it. a little bit of higher key stuff on the knife. This knife, I'll just use it. A bit more white. Just brightening the edge here. So, there's a little bit of shadow down here. A little bit of a light tone coming in there. These low key colours. Fur felt has a beautiful quality, like I said. And cad colour with that. Just put these in. Beautiful old hat. Plenty of rustic charm in it. So, that'll come around here. A bit of a lighter value there to really get the light shining. Wipe the knife clean. Get rid of some of them, those white highlights. Pull that up. The hat's really starting to take shape now. It's looking good. Alright, so next is the boots. Let's get stuck into those boots and start reeling them up. All going well. Let's just get a few light values here. Just want to establish the edge of this a little. Hopefully I'm not too much in the way. Just have a look. It's about right. Just trying to get the perspective right at the start here before I reel it in too much. No point going super highly finished and then realise you've got the bench twisted or whatever else. You want it to go off the right angle. Pull that down. Okay, so some white values. White in amongst these blues and browns because it's a fairly low chromatic saturation we're dealing with here. The leather, not the leather, sorry, that's the elastic side to the boot. Kind of runs like so. I'll put that there. Put that there. There's some middle tones here, so I'll put them in. Stick the middle tones of the boots in, which is these kind of ultramarine blues and burnt siennas and whatever else. A bit more white, bit of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. Depends on how much burnt sienna you put into the ultramarine as to whether you'll get a warm or a cool value. So darker, we'll go for the burnt ultramarine blue here in the darker values. We want to paint a nice shadow here. That's a shadow version, and that's the shadow of that comes right down to there like that. This comes up a bit higher under itself like that. Goes like that. So it's just a rough block in at the moment. Very rough indeed. And then we'll start reeling her in. Let's go a little bit darker here. Yeah. A bit more of those darkness. We'll get the darkness into there. Into there. That boot needs to fill out a bit. She's gone a bit flat, like someone stood on it. Burnt sienna. Bring it back up so it's got a little bit of spring in the boot. Burnt sienna ultramarine blue. Fairly dark, soft shadow on the edge here. That rolls out there. It's there. That's, you know, ultramarine blue is a nice dark shadow. Ooh, let's just clean this up. Take some of that off. There's a really nice dark shadow at the front of the boot, so we use burnt sienna and ultramarine. It's a good combo, it's a very dark colour. Works well for what we're doing here today. Runs up that way. Runs up, get a bit more spring in the boot. I'll put some white highlights on it in a minute. What was that? Okay. And we can see she's starting to take shape. Let's colour the edge of that in. A bit more of the white highlights. They're the grey highlights, I should say. When I put the pure white on, it'll really start to take a 3D shape. Just getting some colour in there. I'll put some more shape in a minute. She's a bit out of shape, I can see. But we're getting the feeling. Starting to get the feeling of it anyway. I'll get some nice white highlights on the boots and whatever else soon, but I can see right now that that bench, the shadows are a nice tonal value. That bench is actually not quite light enough, so get some white and some cad. I want some really high key colour to bring it up a key note. Get the light really shining on it, bring it up a notch. Front of the bench here will have good light shining on it. And there's a little bit more cad in the mix, cad orange I mean in the mix. Quite rich saturation. Where are we? In here. Paper towel. Just want a thin line there, very thin. And we also want a thin line through here. So hang on, we'll take this up a little, push with the knife, the paint that's already on there, take her up. Get her nice and thin. Get the front kind of rickety because it is. That's all right. Might just go a little bit of ultramarine blue and white. Knife on edge, draw that in. A little bit of that one showing there. A bit of that showing there. Keep everything out of focus down here. It's not the main subject. There's a little bit of white paint or whatever. We key down white paint. There's a few splatters of white paint on the front of this. I'm just going to throw them in there. Just to add a little bit here and there, a bit of interest. To the front. There we go. Bit of the rust coloration. Let's put the rust in there. Nice. Okay, now we've done a lot of that, but what I'm going to do is get back into the boots. I'm getting a bit sidetracked. I want to get back into here and just put some more highlights. What I might do now is I'll stick some of these really pure white highlights in and that'll really make it start to pop. Now one thing I have noticed, if you look at the subject on painting and then you look at the picture here and you look at the colour of the shadow there and the colour of the shadow in there, well they're actually very similar, but the camera is making that look way darker than that shadow, when in reality when you look at the both they're very similar. So don't be put off by that. I haven't made the wrong colour in the background choice, it's just the camera's playing in a bit of an illusion. All right, let's get stuck into some highlights. We'll go for some pure white. All right, where are we going to go here? I reckon we'll go, there'll be a nice white just here somewhere. Stick that on. Where's that? Maybe a bit of a white, bit of a one popping in here. Bit of a zigzag through here. Zigzag white. One coming through here like that. Nice. There's beautiful creases in the leather, you see, and I'm trying to get the lovely creases. There's so much character in these old boots. It's just great to get, look up there. It's great to get that character of the creased leather. It'll be shorter. A little bit of yellow ochre with the white. The front here where she's a little scuffed on the front. That one there. That there a little scuffed. A little bit of white kicking in there. Now there's also some blue reflecting from outside. There's some lovely blue highlights. I'm going to go for some ultramarine blue and white. The outdoor window is a cool light and you get those lovely cool contrasts. Looks like it needs a little bit more blue than that. Just go for a little bit more blue. Yeah. Just on the edge of the boot here it's catching it. A little bit there too. Put that there. Bit of a squiggle in there of it. Just a suggestion here and there. There's a nice piece just here. Really does give you that lovely warm and cool contrast that sets the painting off because it's very much a warm colour painting. And as soon as you put some cool colours opposite on the colour wheel, it'll start to pop. A little bit like that. A bit more white there. All right, we'll just stand back and see how it's going and refine. The thing with boots, they've got to be spot on. It's a bit like painting the portrait of someone's face. You get it a millimetre out and they won't look like the right person, the person you're trying to paint. Same with boots. You get it a millimetre out and it won't look like boots, it'll look like two left feet or something like that. So you've got to constantly get back and evaluate the shapes. It's very important to get the draftsmanship of the boot correct. Take that in just a little bit. Take that up. Right, so what I'll do is get some of this stuff. That'll do for now. Like I said, you work round and round. You don't just finish anything off. In this style of painting, you just go for the big impression, so you start off with nothing and build your way into the refinement at the end. So I'll leave that for now. I'm just going to get a little bit more in here before I start really refining. So we'll go white, yellow ochre, bit of cad orange maybe. What have we got? What have we got? Just here the light's capturing the back on the boot. On the edge there like that. There. Take that up. Scratching the paint off with the knife, moving it around, drawing it by manipulating it. By sliding a clean knife, you can manipulate the paint to where you want it to go. Like this dark, for example, I'll just pull that down a little. Get a bit of burnt sienna. Burnt sienna, cad. The colour of the inside of the boot's a nice type of orangey brown, so we'll put that in. Same goes for here. Put that in. Just get a knife on edge, just draw. That on, that's going on nice. This one's standing up like so. We'll put this one out here because she's standing up like that. So when you can just see a little bit of it. And that one hardly anything either. It's coming along, coming along. Let's keep on going with the draftsmanship. Pull it around. Take that up. Take the paint in. Getting there, moving around and getting there. Go for some high key here, just on the bench, right here. Some nice high key cat oranges and yellow ochres where the light is striking quite well. There's some dirt under there, we'll take that off. A little bit of dirty paint underneath, I just scraped it off so I can put the fresh gear on. Bit more of a cat orange. There's quite a bit of orange in the bench here. The timber's got a really nice orange quality about it. I like that, so I'll play up on that. And a bit more of that orange, just up in here. Get that high key going there, nice. Got a bit dirty again. So I took some off, I scraped some back then. As I put it on, I realised it was getting dirty, so I scraped it back. Take it off. Nice. Getting there. So we just keep moving around, refining, refining. As we find bits, as we fix one bit, because we're constantly moving around, never finishing anything completely, we'll be doing one bit and then we'll move around because the other bit's not as finished, and then we'll find another bit that's not as finished as that and move around to that, and you keep moving around and around until you get the picture convincing enough. All right, well, I'm back after lunch. I've had a nice little feed, a cup of tea and whatever else. Just get my mind off the job completely. If you've watched my other videos, you would have seen that once I've had a big session like this and I've just blocked from nothing to this stage, it's quite often hard to tell how close you are to finish. It's so easy to overwork it with this style of painting. The best thing you can do is completely get your mind off the job, go have something to eat, go do something else, and then come back and look at it fresh. Now that I've come back, I see that everything seems to be right. I've been working it up from start to finish, as you saw, constantly working around the painting rather than any specific area. Now I've gotten to this stage, what I want to do is, after looking at it, is just keep reeling it in a little bit more. Get the boots a bit more refined, work on the hat, just pull things up until I feel it's got the degree of finish that I'm looking for. All right, let's get into it. So like I said, there'll be small things that I need to do. Like this white highlight, I might just soften it, get the edge of the knife, stick it on there. Just wobble it around a little and soften it that little bit. Then goes for the other side, just take a tiny little bit off, soften like that. Doing the same here, just taking a bit off and softening. And what have we got here? Pulling, just taking paint off the same way. Wobbling the knife a little, softening off. Lovely. Because the leather has soft folds here, they're all very soft folds. Like I said, I want to pick up the quality of the leather, excuse me, and that leather just has a beautiful sheen on it, as you can see over here. We've got a lovely sheen. I just want to pick up that quality of the leather. Now with the timber itself here, you can see what I've done here is I've just stuck the suggestion on the top of the timber of a bit of writing on the old box, because they're made out of old boxes, and there's a little bit of writing left over, and I didn't want to overstate it. I didn't want to actually write something that you can understand what it is. I can just see a few marks, and that's why I wanted to leave it just suggestion. A couple of dark marks there for nails, bit of a crack in the timber, just getting the quality of the wood itself. So you've got the quality of the leather, the quality of the timber. Then when it comes to the old tin boxes here, containers, trying to get the feeling of that as well to make it feel like tin or metal or whatever else. Same goes here. I'll look at the fur felt hat, I'll stand back in a minute and have a look and maybe soften and harden and just try and capture the quality of the rugged old fur felt. There's a little bit of stitching where someone's done a little bit of stitch work on the hat and whatever else, so I'll stick that in just to create a good bit of character. All right, let's stand back and have a look. Okay, I've just had a stand back. I've just had a stand back and I can see just here, there's some beautiful colours here. What we've got is a bit of a sweat stain from the hat over the years, working hard in the hot weather outdoors and whatever else. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of that. What we'll do is we'll get a bit of burnt sienna, a bit of yellow ochre, some greyish colours. It's still a light, fairly light violet. Let me just have a look. I'll just put some on. Just soften it on like so. Right near the edge there. These are just soft, subtle marks that are helping to give the feeling. Maybe a bit more burnt sienna. Yellow ochre. Helping to give the feeling of the character of the fur felt. Swing it around like so. There we go. Pull it down like this. Softens off like that. Just a bit of orange. There's quite a bit of high key type of orange here, which I like, that I'll just restate. Just on the edge of that, like I was saying about the boots, there's a bit of light coming in through the window, cool light, contrasting the warm light. So what I'll do is I'm going to put a bit on the hat. I can see a little bit on the hat. We'll go for a bit of ultramarine, mix up with some of these blues here. It's just licking in here. I'll leave that hat for now. Now I'm going to work around a little bit more on the bench. I just want to draw your eyes in these type of style of painting, chiaroscuro, light to dark. They work out of the shadows and into the light. Your eyes tend to follow the light. So in this area here, I just want to make it slightly stronger to draw the attention. So I'm going to go for some white. Lovely cad yellow there. Cad yellow deep, it actually is. With some yellow ochre, get for a real high key shot. Let's have a look. Maybe need a bit more white than that. I just want to really place this on here as that's good. Now I just want to get a bit of a glow here on the front of this tin that's open. So what I'm going to do is use some burnt sienna and yellow ochre. Just introduce a little bit of light in here. Key it off a little. Just want to feel the light bouncing off this area. Giving it a brightness to that area so you can feel the light shining out of it. All right, well, we could keep on going forever, but I reckon I'll leave it at that. I've got what I was after, the big impression, the feeling of a rustic antique setup. Got beautiful, beautiful depression furniture, old leather boots with great character, a nice old hat, just a whole lot in general. Now, the painting, like I said, is about realism and about light, but at the same time, I was wanting to bring up the quality of each subject. So I've really worked hard to get the feeling of leather and get the feeling of timber on the old piece of furniture. And like I said, I've put in some extra details on the top here, a few dark little marks just suggesting nails. And then there's a few marks just suggesting writing, because on top of the box there's a little bit of writing. And I don't want to write it literally and put every letter in, because it's not about that. It's about just seeing the impression of what you're looking at from this angle. And from this angle, you're just seeing a few marks, and we'll put them in, and that just gives that feeling of more refinement. Now these tins, fantastic things. I reckon they're kerosene tins, they could be honey tins. Anyone in the comments who knows, leave a comment and let me know what you think, but I reckon they're old kerosene tins. I've really tried to play up on the character of the metal, the feeling of the metal with the little handles and whatever else, and the bits of rust and beautiful blue. We're using a blue here because that's a great thing. The whole painting is a very warmed toned painting, which is closer to the oranges and the browns. As soon as you go to the opposite side of the colour wheel and you go to blues, it'll give it a jump in dynamicism, and that's blue has been a perfect highlight for this brownish style painting. The boots themselves have got the highlights and the spotlight coming down. You've got the spotlight shining down, highlights, but on the window just outside there's a cool light coming in, and that cool light is producing complementary blues just dancing around, which is also in the shadow here, there on the edge of the boots. It's also complementing the actual piece of furniture itself. A little bit of blue on the back of the fur hat. The illusion of detail put in here and there in amongst the big blobby abstract marks, and then the use of how much colour and tone are you going to put in to draw the eye around the picture. So what I've done here, obviously the grand finale is here today, and that has the biggest range between black and white and the most clean refinement, and you stagger it and gradiate it out to where you want it. As much as I would love to bring that hat up absolutely finished, it's not the main subject, it's a secondary subject, so you purposely leave it a little bit softer, a little bit more out of focus, a little bit less detail than the eye-catching main subject. So it's just a feel, you get a feel for standing back and looking and working out how much you've got to bring up those secondary subjects. Like here, for example, I've brought that up and I've got a bit of a sheen glowing off there so you can feel the light. The top of the bench is very much an eye-drawing subject, so that's got the highest key areas. But here I've still got quite high just to draw your eye into those areas. Back here it's keyed back, not as important. Then, at the end, once your eyes flow through and you've gone into the boots themselves, the wall behind, I've just lightened this area up here to send your eyes off up there. But at the top, it's darkened again because you don't want to go out of the picture, it just holds you in the picture. A few lines for cracks in the boards, whatever else. Bit of sweat stains. On the whole, pretty happy with what's going on. Why don't we get that camera off now? We'll come buzzing right in. You guys can have a look and see what you think. All right, thank you.